Welcome to Dashing Dish. It's a fan favorites kind of day where we're sharing the most popular recipes from Dashing Dish. Our fan favorite menu includes filled with peanut butter and chocolate flavor that we all love, yet healthy and packed with protein. Chocolate peanut butter cup overnight oats. Fresh from the oven, muffin tin cheeseburger bites. Skip the carbs, but not the taste with this delicious pizza stuffed chicken and layered taco dip casserole that can be served as an appetizer or a meal. I'm Katie Farrell, and on today's show, we're gonna whip up some of Dashing Dish fan favorites. Come join us. Today's show is all about fan favorites at Dashing Dish. And my personal favorite, as well as many of our fans, is these peanut butter cup overnight oats. And what makes this recipe so wonderful is the fact that it not only tastes like peanut butter cups, but also you can make it in about 5 minutes, pop it in your fridge, and you have a protein and fiber-rich breakfast ready to go the next morning. So I'm gonna show you what I put in it. We have 2 cups of oats, a half cup of sweetener, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, a half cup of peanut flour, 1½ cups of milk of choice, a half teaspoon of salt, and then just some chocolate, peanut butter, and 1 cup of Greek yogurt. So it looks like we have a lot of ingredients going here, but what I like to do is just add all my dry ingredients to a bowl, then the wet ingredients, stir it up, and pour it in some mason jars. It's so easy. All right, I'm gonna start with 2 cups of old-fashioned oats. And I love this recipe because it's almost like having your healthy bowl of morning oatmeal, but without all of the work. And I just like to use sugar in the raw or monk fruit sweetener. You can also use maple sugar, so it's actually maple sweetener that's made into like a powder, so it's a little bit healthier for you. So whatever kind of sweetener that you like. I did do peanut flour, which if you've never heard of peanut flour, it's wonderful because it has all the flavor of peanut butter. So that's where we're getting our peanut butter cup flavor from, but it also has protein. And they actually just take the fat out of the peanuts and they make it into a powder. So it gives you all that flavor of peanut butter with a little bit less fat and calories. And I love doing this recipe or any kind of overnight oats because it really truly does taste like whatever flavors you're adding to it. So I think a lot of people think of oatmeal and they think, oh, well, that's so bland and boring. You just think of maybe some oats and some cinnamon, maybe some honey in there. But this is such a unique take on oatmeal because it's basically the flavor of a peanut butter cup. So we're gonna stir that all in, and then we have our Greek yogurt. And Greek yogurt is wonderful because it adds a lot of creaminess to the oats, and it gives it also some added protein. So we're just gonna stir that up, and then a half teaspoon, I'm just gonna eyeball it, of salt. And that was literally all there is to it. Now, when it comes to fan favorites, a lot of times people ask me, what is your personal favorite recipe on Dashing Dish? And to be honest, it is one of my hardest questions to answer because I have so many favorites and it's always changing. So what I find that I do with recipes is when I create a new recipe and I absolutely love it or my family loves it, I'll make it on repeat because I know that it's something that my whole family loves. So I just keep remaking it over and over. So it's kind of like whatever my current recipes are that I'm making, that ends up being a favorite somewhere in there. So it's really hard to answer that question, but I will tell you, I do have a few tried and true favorites of mine and my family's. And I have to say, our family loves Italian food and Mexican food. So when it comes to anything that my whole family loves, that is usually the answer, something Italian or Mexican inspired. Okay, now I'm just gonna add some of these oats to some mason jars. Now this will make about 4 servings. So I just have 2 here just to kind of show you what it'll look like. It's going to be very liquidy, as you can see. But don't worry, this is not how it's going to end up. It's going to thicken up really nicely in the fridge. So I'm just using a 1 cup measuring cup, and I'm going to scoop about 1.5 cup into each mason jar. Like I said, that'll make about 4 servings. And what I love about this is putting it in mason jars is really nice. You can just add the top right to that mason jar and keep it in your fridge that way. But this recipe is not done. The best part is still to come. We have a chocolate peanut butter shell that will go on top that once it hardens in the fridge, you literally take a spoon and have to crack it to get into the oats. So it is beyond decadent while still being nutritious and good for you. So I'm going to show you how I make that. I basically just eyeball the chocolate chips, but I'd say about a 1/4 cup of the chocolate chips and then a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. And you just add that into a bowl. And this step is definitely optional, but I'm telling you, once you do it, you won't go back. All right, you can see I melted this up and it looks so good. I could basically just sit here and enjoy this with a spoon, but instead I will share it with my oatmeal. So you just want to pour about a tablespoon or 2 on top here, just like that, and kind of spread it out just a little bit. And the nice thing is, because it's melted chocolate, it's melted now, but when you put it in the fridge and it sits overnight, it will form a hard chocolate layer, kind of like if you ever had a chocolate shell on your ice cream and you dig in and it just makes what's inside even more divine. So that's what's going to be on top of your chocolate peanut butter oatmeal. And then I just have these cute little lids that we're going to screw on top, and these are ready to go in the fridge. We can enjoy them tomorrow.
We are making your waffles. We just love them. I make them multiple times a week because somebody is obsessed. So, yeah, we just use the blender, nice and easy. There they're going. You like waffles?
Another fan favorite on Dashing Dish are these mini cheeseburger bites. Did I call them cheeseburger bites?
Muffin tin cheeseburger bites.
Of course I did. I have to make it a 20-word long. Another fan favorite on Dashing Dish are these muffin tin cheeseburger bites. What I love about them is it essentially is like a cheeseburger without all of the work, and they're perfectly portioned in little muffin tins. So to make these, you just need a few simple ingredients. We have a pound of ground beef, a 1/4 cup of Parmesan, a 1/4 cup of shredded cheese, a 1/4 cup of old-fashioned oats, 2 eggs, 3 tablespoons of mustard, and a 1/4 cup of ketchup. So really simple ingredients, and they taste absolutely outstanding. So I'm just gonna start by adding the Parmesan cheese to the beef. And the reason I'm using Parmesan cheese is if you added something like shredded cheese to ground beef while it's baking, it's just gonna kind of get gooey inside. So we're gonna add the shredded cheese on top. Then I'm gonna add some old-fashioned oats, and that's kind of like a binder. So if you think about meatloaf, we do eggs, and any kind of breadcrumbs or oats are great to kind of bind that meat together and also make it really moist and flavorful so it doesn't get tough. And that's just as simple as that is. So we're just gonna kind of break up the meat with a spoon or a spatula and get these flavors all blended together. All right, so that's looking good. That's mostly blended up together. Now we're gonna add our mustard and our ketchup, and this is what gives it truly the cheeseburger flavor. You could also do relish or whatever else you like on your cheeseburgers right into the meat there. So about 3 tablespoons of the ketchup and the mustard. We're gonna give it another stir. So now I'm just gonna coat this muffin tin with some cooking spray. And then we have our ice cream scoop here. And this is perfect for scooping out the perfect size cheesecake bites. Oh, cheesecake. Well, it would be interesting if these were cheesecake bites, for sure, with shredded cheese on top. But we're gonna scoop them out into the muffin tin, and this is really makes for the perfect size cheeseburger bites. You're gonna do it just like that. And you can kind of form it with your hands too. So my kids love these cheeseburger bites because they are kind of a little bit more inviting to eat rather than a big cheeseburger on a plate. So the nice thing is anytime my kids eat something and my husband and I'm like, it's an absolute go for me, because anytime you can get your whole family to eat something, all you moms out there know it is an absolute win. So this is definitely a recipe that I consider a win-win for my whole family. And it's nice because you can also do this recipe for something like an appetizer, for game day, anywhere that you really just want finger food, it's the perfect recipe. So that looks perfect. The mixture is all divided nicely between the muffin cups. And then I'm just gonna top each with some shredded cheese. Just like that. These also make a really good lunch or dinner just with some sides. I like to serve it with some potatoes and some broccoli. So what I do is I just roast up some broccoli on the side while I'm cooking these in the oven, and some potatoes. So I do like some baby potatoes just cut in half, some frozen broccoli. I put it on a sheet pan next to these in the oven, and then they roast up at the same exact time. So it really is the perfect all-in-one meal. And it also makes great leftovers, which is wonderful as well. So you'll want to roast these at 425 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes, and then just check them with a thermometer. If they reach 145 degrees for beef or 165 degrees for turkey or chicken, then you know that they're good to eat. Coming up next, extra protein and none of the empty carbs. We are taking all the ingredients of pizza that we love, sauce, cheese, spices, and putting it together in a healthy meal.
Hi Katie, I made your delicious 6-ingredient chocolate chip cookies today.
Next up on our favorites list is our pizza stuffed chicken breast. And this is a oldie but goodie on Dashing Dish. I'm pretty sure I made this recipe about, well, over 10 years ago, and it has been reigning in at the top 5 all of these years. So you have to try this recipe. For this recipe, we have a little over a pound, so about 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, a 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese, a 1/4 cup of marinara sauce. We have some pepperonis here and a little bit more marinara sauce and cheese to top, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. So I'm gonna start by adding all of the chicken to a Ziploc bag. And you can buy the thin cut chicken breast, which takes this whole step out, which is honestly what I love to do. But if you are saving some money and are kind of shopping on a budget, those thin cut chicken breasts are a little more expensive, so that you can just do it yourself in your own kitchen with a meat pounder. You also want them to be about even thickness on each chicken breast, and that's when you'll know that they're about done, when you can roll them up and they're about even thickness, because you want them to bake through evenly. This is a great tool to have in the kitchen if you're stressed out as well. Trust me, I've used it many times. It really does release some of that stress. All right, so we're gonna take one of the chicken breasts and we're gonna put it on a baking sheet pan, and that way it's ready to go. You can add them all at once, but I like to do one at a time so it's easier to roll. And then I'm gonna add my filling to this bowl. It's just the mozzarella cheese, the sauce, and then we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of the Italian seasoning. And we're gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna stir that up. All right, so that looks good. Now we're gonna add it to our chicken breast. And all we're gonna do is, you can use a ice cream scoop or something to kind of scoop that out, but I'm just gonna use my hands. And you wanna put it on the thickest part of the chicken breast. and you want to kind of tuck it in and roll it over the filling, just like that. Now, you could get some toothpicks out and kind of toothpick that chicken breast so it holds nicely, but I always find that if you put it seam side down, so like the seam is on the bottom, then it holds pretty nicely in the oven just like that. Now I'm gonna get out my next chicken breast and do the same exact thing. So if you're looking for a pizza recipe that is a little bit healthier, lower in carbs without all the crust, this is a great option for you. So we have these chicken breasts all stuffed. Now we're gonna top them with a little bit more sauce, cheese, and pepperoni, which is an optional topping if you don't like pepperoni. You know, my kids don't like pepperoni, which I can't imagine why they don't, but they don't. So I would probably just do cheese on, you know, one of these and then split it amongst them. So you can really do your personal favorite pizza toppings for these. But I can definitely tell you that I see why the favorites on Dashing Dish are the favorites. It's usually the recipes that, you know, kids and adults would like. And now that I'm a mom to two, I can understand that. I am so tired of trying to make something different for Maddie and then something separate for me and Sean. I didn't really mind it as much when it was just Maddie that I was feeding, but now that I am feeding two kids, I can understand why moms just want to find something that everybody likes. It's much easier that way. And then we're just gonna top it with a little more cheese and, like I said, some pepperoni or your favorite pizza toppings. And this also ends up looking really pretty and delicious, which is another key factor when you're feeding your kids. They need to be able to look at it and say, oh, that looks cheesy and yummy, I want that. So we're gonna bake this 375 for 30 to 35 minutes until it reaches 165 degrees in the center. So you wanna stick that meat thermometer in the thickest part of the chicken and make sure it reads 165 or more. We're gonna pop these in the oven and they will be delicious. Coming up next, for an appetizer or a meal, this taco dip casserole is a win with a secret ingredient.
Today I have made the birthday cake protein bars and the animal crackers for my kids' snacks this week. Thank you for your awesome recipes.
All right, last but not least, to round out our fan favorites show, we're gonna end with something that seems like it would be an appetizer, but actually when I made it, I realized, oh my gosh, this makes a delicious meal. So it's my taco dip casserole. So it really is like a taco dip, but it is a casserole because it's like a meal. So we have 1 pound of ground beef or any kind of ground meat that you like, 2 bags of frozen cauliflower rice, a jar of salsa, a can of refried beans, 2 cups of shredded cheese, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of Greek yogurt, a packet of taco seasoning, and then we have 1 onion. All right, so I have my ground beef in a pan and I'm cooking it over medium-high heat. I have my favorite ground meat tool, which is, I think, called a mix and chop, but regardless, you can get them online and they're my favorite because you can kind of break up the meat while it's cooking and you can get it into really small pieces. So I'm just gonna kind of break up this ground beef. We're gonna add to the ground beef in the pan just the diced onion that I cut up. And if you wanna do even just half of an onion or a sweet onion, you can really just add that to taste. So I'm gonna kind of stir that in and let the onion kind of caramelize and bring out that flavor while the beef cooks. Okay, so once the meat starts to brown up, then you can start to add your other ingredients. So we're gonna add about a packet of taco seasoning. However, you can also make your own taco seasoning. So there is a recipe on Dashing Dish to make your own, and it's just a bulk taco seasoning that you make, and then you can just measure it out according to the recipe that you need it for. And then go ahead and stir that taco seasoning in as the meat browns. And that's gonna add all of that flavor. And then once you see that your meat is browned, that's when you can add your refried beans and your salsa. So refried beans usually get a bad rap. A lot of people think that they're totally unhealthy. I think that was during the fat-free craze back in, I think it was the 90s, when everything was low-fat or fat-free. So refried beans are actually not bad for you. It's literally just mashed up beans. So you do want to check the ingredients, make sure they didn't add any ingredients that aren't needed. And that's what I do with all of the food that I buy. Typically, if I don't know what something is, I just look at the ingredients, and if I can recognize most of the ingredients, then I know it's better for you. So we'll add those, and then we'll add our jar of salsa. Okay, so we're just going to continue to cook this over about medium heat just to warm up these refried beans and get them mixed in with the ground beef. I should have done a bigger pan, clearly, because this is going to be hard to mix together. So you definitely want to do a bigger saute pan, the biggest one that you have, so that you're not having struggles like I am to mix this all in. And you just want to kind of work it so that it all comes together. And this is going to be the meat layer to our taco dip. So now that the meat layer is done, we're gonna put this casserole together, and we're gonna start with the base with cauliflower rice instead of white rice. It's a little bit lower in glycemic index and carbohydrates, and it also adds some nutrition. So all I do is I just add about a teaspoon of salt, and you can do that to taste. You can even add different spices and seasonings to really jazz it up, but I find just some basic salt is good enough because we have all the seasonings in the meat layer. So we're gonna stir that salt in. You can also saute this cauliflower rice if you'd like, just to kind of brown it a little bit. It adds to the flavor. And I'm just gonna pour that into a 9x13 baking dish. Then I'm gonna add the ground meat mixture on top of that. So kind of just pour it in like that. What I love about these fan favorites is whenever I look on my website and I can see the recipes that are being made the most, it makes me feel connected to the people that are making my recipes. So if you guys have made a Dashing Dish recipe, I love hearing about what your favorites are. It really does bring so much joy to what I do and why I do it. So I have some Greek yogurt and some cream cheese that I added to it, and I'm gonna first start by just stirring that in. You do wanna make sure your cream cheese is softened, and you could do without the cream cheese, but it just really does add a little bit of a depth of flavor. So I like to add the two together. The Greek yogurt adds protein and does make it a little bit lighter. And I'm gonna show you guys what I do, a little trick to put that cream cheese layer on top of this casserole. So I have a Ziploc bag, and I'm just gonna put it on my hand, so stick my hand in there. And then I'm gonna scoop some of this cream cheese, just like that, right onto my hand. So it's like I'm holding it. So that way I can kind of balance it when I flip it back around, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so then I kind of flip it back around, and again, you don't have to do this part. It's just a little handy tip in the kitchen. And then you want to kind of squeeze it down to one of the corners, just like that. And then that way you can really easy and nicely spread it onto the top of your casserole. It really does make it more even, and it also makes it look really pretty. So I'm gonna grab some kitchen scissors. I'm just gonna snip just one of the edges off there. And then you can kind of just pipe it on, just like that. Once we get all of that on there, You can go ahead and, kind of spread it out, smooth it out just a little bit if you'd like. But that's one of my favorite kitchen tips whenever I'm working with like a whipped cream topping or something with cream cheese, is just to pop it in a Ziploc bag and kind of pipe it on. Makes it a lot easier. We're just gonna smooth that out on top, and then we're gonna top it with our cheese. And you can use any kind of shredded cheese. You can also do some of your favorite taco seasoning. So you could do shredded lettuce, you could do olives, you could do diced tomatoes, whatever you like. So now I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, and you could eat it just straight away, but it also is wonderful when you serve it up chilled for about 30 minutes to an hour. Well, I had so much fun recreating all of these fan favorites with you guys today. And if you're new to healthy eating or Dashing Dish, this is a great place to start. You can find all of these recipes and more to nourish your body and soul on dashingdish.com.